Welcome. You're listening to Leaders Lounge live and unmuted with Steve Hamilton. Today, so many leaders are feeling stuck, isolated, and uninspired. This podcast will help you master your framework, connect with the community of leaders, and reignite the devotion for what you do. Some of the brightest leaders of today will be joining the conversation, sharing the joys of leadership, their vision of the future, uncovering blind spots and pitfalls, as well as what they do to maintain their footing. If you're looking for candid conversation, this is the podcast for you. Help us by staying connected and subscribe to YouTube as well as SteveHamiltonMinistries.com. Now let's get started.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Leaders Lounge. Welcome to a special live edition of the Leaders Lounge podcast. My guest is David S. Smith. I don't know if I need to run down all the accolades, all his accomplishments, but I will say this: I've known him for almost 5 years now. We started a men's ministry self-care session in, I believe it was either probably November of 2020. So, right in the midst of all of it, we began our connection, and it has been a great blessing to Spirit and Life Ministries. And we are, and not only to the ministry, to the brothers, but also to me personally. He's helped me a great deal, and I thought it would be appropriate and great to keep him up a little bit later than he's usually up, since he's in Atlanta. And but we wanted to make sure that we got him on in this mental health awareness month of May. And so what I want you to do before we jump into the conversation, please like this post and share it on all the platforms that you can share it on. Tell your friends we're going to talk about and help them with their mental health. Touch a leader, get a leader on here and tell them that they need to be tuned in. But we're going to make sure you all are liking this, sharing this, making sure that as many people as possible can be in on and listen to this conversation. David is a tremendously gifted life coach. What else did David do? He's a style coach. He's oh Lord, I hope we didn't lose his mic. But anyway, he's all those things, but he's a great friend, and we are grateful to have him with us. David, are everything clicking?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everything's clicking. Yes, sir.
It's good to have you with us. Thank you so much for jumping on with us for this discussion. And just a warning to all of you that are normal Leaders Lounge TNT viewers, we're gonna go a little bit longer tonight. Just so we can make sure we cover as much of this discussion as possible. We all know that mental health is a major issue, not only in the church and in business, but everywhere, all over the country and around the world. So, David, welcome. We're glad to have you. Any opening remarks? Anything you want to break dance? You want to, whatever you want.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, Spirit of Life. I did not know you've been in my life over 5 years now. I feel like I need rest, brother. Rest. But no, it is a blessing. Spirit of Life in your ministry, your vision for mental health has been driven. I mean, it's been part of your work. I know for 5 years you've been, you're really curating a ministry for mental health, for self-care, and you've been very intentional about it. And so it's been a blessing to be a part of the brothers and also the sisters when we can't get our logins together, the sisters jump in.
They come in on over there. They slide on in. Although now, since they go so early on a Saturday, If
Oh yeah.
they can't get in, and there it's too bad because we sleep. But anyway, be texting me asking me, you're on your own now. But but we certainly appreciate the work that you're doing, and as you mentioned, we did jump in in the midst of the pandemic and all the stuff going on, and it was such a great need, and we were blessed to be able to connect. My cousin Nicole was able to connect Denise with some of the sisters from our church, and the story and it goes on from there. But it was a need, but it was such a need, and it's still a need. We're here 5 years later, and I don't know if it's even more of a need now, but because once we got out of the pandemic, it seemed like everybody just went wild, So the term they keep using now, I keep hearing all the time, is crashing out. So folks are crashing out all the time.
Crashing out. Yes, sir.
So I want to be able to help leaders, to be able to not crash out and not burn out.
Absolutely.
So our topic, which I thought was excellent, and when you came up with it after you partied a little bit at the concert, you came up with a great topic for. See, I'm just telling all your business. But anyway,
I told you. I mean, I sent the picture, so I can't.
So, but we were, when you said shepherds and self-care, and then nurturing, mental health in ministry. I think it's just vital that we keep asking the question. I guess keep bringing up the subject, keep putting it out there to discuss, because typically in our circles and around the country, in most church circles, and definitely in the Black community, there's been such a stigma put on it, and so we don't talk about it enough. And so after the pandemic, we kind of pushed everything back, under the rug, hid it in the closet, kept it all in the back room. And I think that and then of course every week, and I mean every week, we are seeing something where folks in church, folks in business, folks in society, folks in everyday life are just crashing out. They are really tripping. And so I thought that it would be great to have you come on and just begin to kind of give our leaders some insight, and not only for the leaders themselves personally, but I know we talk about self-care, but not only for the leaders, but for the people connected to them. And then we leaders have to kind of foster an environment where we can talk about, deal with, and advocate for some better mental health care, and make sure that we're doing everything we can to help the people that are connected to us live better. So I have a few questions, but I wanted just to know if you had anything or let me ask this question. I thought about it.
I want to throw in that I think I know we talked about shepherds and self-care and nurturing mental health in ministry. I was thinking about it earlier today on my walk. This is what I was thinking about. Here's the question, Bishop, and I want you to chime in as well. Here's the question I want to ask. Where is your leak?
Where's your leak? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's a great question. We have to bring you back another. No, but I think that's a great question.
Because 4 minutes, when we think about self-care, we often figure that if there's a leak in the building, right, and oftentimes we have to identify where's the leak.
Right.
It could be emotional.
That's a great. Yeah.
It could be spiritual. Right. It could be mental.
I think it's a matter of understanding that. Well, let me put it this way: a lot of times we're not even aware there is a leak. You know what I'm saying? Until you just in natural situations with plumbing, all of a sudden you come into, I know I've had this experience, a traumatic experience years ago
Of course.
at home, just a regular Sunday evening, and all of a sudden it's like, why is this water on the floor? And the kid goes in the kitchen and they're like, oh, there's water on the floor. And then you realize nothing is spilled, nothing has been, and then you realize there's something underground and under the floor. And I think that so often when it comes to self-care, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to anything in ministry or even in a business, you're not sure something until there's a leak, until you see evidence that something is
Yes, sir.
wrong.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask you the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think, as you're just observing things, where do you think, where do you think our mental health is? And now, before you answer, I want to mess with this leak issue, because that's a powerful.
Because even though you saw there was water travels.
Right.
Right.
And the key
even
thing is, where's the source?
Where's the source, right? And we try to follow the water, right? We try to find the source. And oftentimes it's not just the leak, but where has it gone? Right. And so when we think about water and how it travels from place to place, that's what happens when we don't identify the leak. It spills over.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And a lot of times we don't want to do the hard work of tracing that, tracking that. We're not going to, there are leaks in ministry all the time. Sometimes we ignore it. We're gonna put a towel down. We'll try to, we'll try to deal with it another time. If it's in the roof, we're gonna try to patch that and try to, and pray. We try to do what we can to manage it, and Lord knows, pastoring, we've done all that. We're dealing with an older building. There's a lot of that, we're just gonna fix it, doing stuff. My dad, God rest his soul, was one of those that was we go, fancied himself a bit of a handyman, but low key was like, we're gonna put some duct tape on this, we're gonna wrap it up, we're gonna make sure, and we're gonna keep going. And so often what we're doing is that we've seen folks patch up a lot of stuff. We patch up a lot, we cover a lot, we camouflage a lot, and we never get to the source, because the source takes the hard work. And unfortunately, we're seeing people in church. Well, let me back up. COVID, I think, the shutdown exposed a lot of leaks.
Yes, sir.
They exposed where we were. And then we had, So, if this was a weak area of church, and then it was like, once we were able to come back, well, let's come back, and then we're gonna try to make it like it was. We're gonna try to make everything, and we're ignoring the fact that we didn't fix stuff while it was. Well, we never addressed the mental health issue. We never addressed why pastors are burning out. And it was interesting last week when we had the men's meeting, and you were asking all of us to kind of check in, and you asked me, how are you doing, and how are you in terms of where you started at the beginning of the year, what you had planned on in the beginning of the year, and I was telling you, I said, well, I'm tired, and you quickly jumped in and said, are you not? But are you burnt out? You were like, okay, look, because it's one thing to be physically tired, and kind of emotionally drained because you've just been pushing. But then there's another thing where rest or time off is not going to fix it. And that's when you're bordering on burning out. And so there are so many leaders that burn out. There are so many people that died by suicide, and all kind of things that have been happening. And I think that we need to really kind of wrap our arms around where the leak is coming from, and so we got to figure out where are we. That's a great question. And I think we need, like I said, I do a whole section on that. But see, that's why David think he's slick. He does that all the time with me. He'll start off with a question, and then throw me into a whole nother thing, and then I'm trying to,
Bishop, you had an impact on me. You told me to go deep, so we go deep. You know, go deep, right?
all right.
You know,
Make sure you are liking and sharing this, and making sure that as many people as possible can get this discussion. But what do you see though as a coach, as a thought leader, somebody that deals with mental health, and you deal with all kinds of people in different walks of life and leaders in all kinds of fields.
Sir. I see that we are when we think about us in the geopolitical world that we operate in, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone is situated in this moment we find ourselves in.
Right.
And then looking at where the faith community is, right? Where it's not just now. It used to be, we got 3 services. Everybody was pushing for numbers and expansion and growth, and COVID changed all of it, right? So now we worship differently, we gather differently. We're looking at what does it look like now, right? Now we're 5 years in. Who are we as a faith community?
Yeah.
Who am I as a minister? Who am I as a leader now? Right? Mm-hmm. I'm not the same minister. I can't minister the same as I did 5 years ago.
Can't do it. Yeah.
The people have changed, right? Mm-hmm. So we got a geopolitical piece, we got a faith community piece that's shifting, and then we also have our family dynamics, right? We got to bring all that piece in. We got health. So a lot of things are merging, right? A lot of change, a lot of uncertainty, and people are crashing out. They are trying to find ways in which they can ground themselves and get themselves in a place of certainty. But I don't think this is the time to latch on to certainty.
Right.
I think when we think about where we are now, what I see, if I had to put on the scale, 1 being pretty good, not so good, 10 being great, I think we probably 5, 6, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
We're right there in the middle. Because we vacillate between I want to go, I know, I call it the level 5 mafia. That's what I call it. You can get to the 10, but we can hold strong on that 5, right?
We lay right in that 5, and and we do what we can. I keep thinking the song by Solange. I always got to come back with a song, but the song by Solange is "Praise the Sky."
Yes,
and
yes, sir.
I tried to shop it away. I tried to sex it away. I tried to all these things, and I see us every week. I mean, one thing Black folks gonna do is learn a line dance.
We got
to a terrible song. They're gonna learn a line dance. They gonna have fans and cowboy boots. I'm sick of. Not enough. But again, but you see that we latch onto things like you were saying to try to cope, and the church does it. We're gonna have this conference. We're gonna do, and we stopped pivoting and started mimicking again. We started copying. We're comparing and copying, and so we find a lot of the same stuff, going on in all these churches. Some better than others, more successfully than others.
Yes, sir.
But we now have gotten to the point where we're not really addressing underlying issues or underlying leaks or things that are going on.
Yeah. If you have people sitting in your pews, you have people dealing with leaks. Period.
Yeah.
Just be aware that if you're ministering and you're shepherding, whether you're in a building, you're on a street corner, or you are doing prison ministry, or you're doing ministry in the shelter, or you're working with young people in schools, or you're working with elder in homes, wherever you're ministering, there are always, in people's lives, there are leaks.
Yeah.
Our job is to help them identify those leaks. But we have to, first of all, acknowledge that if we don't get them to identify the leaks, then in the words of Carolyn Mice, liars don't heal.
Liars don't heal. Yeah. That's and now my question to that would be, do we need, as leaders, we got to help, we got to be healed ourselves?
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And you got to, I love what you're saying about identifying the leaks and helping people to heal. But but the problem a lot of times is the leaders aren't whole. The leaders are,
Right.
we playing it off. We struggling and we
Right.
playing it off. And so
Right.
then when it comes time to actually help them, that's why I like
Right.
what you said, shepherds self-care. In other words, we got to get ourselves together. Like the thing they say on the plane, secure your mask before you try to secure somebody else. You over here, you barely breathe. You try to help everybody. You about to pass
You ain't
out.
breathing. Right. And you trying to help everybody else on your row. For those of us who are in coach, there's more than one on the row, right?
That's right.
Now,
that's right.
So, Bishop, here's what I want to do.
Okay.
We think self-care is massages, haircuts, manicures, pedicures, facials. We consider that like self-care.
Right.
But that's actually maintenance.
Wow.
That's not self-care.
See, that's not self-care, that's maintenance.
That's maintenance.
There's a difference between self-care and maintenance.
Yes, sir. When we think about self-care, it is an intentional work around our emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Because we have been conditioned to think that we can put a beauty thing around it. We can do when I go, for women, this is not knocking women, but oftentimes it is the massage, the facial, it's I went and got my lashes done. That's maintenance. Now, you may have some moments where you feel like someone's taking care of you, right? They're giving you a massage, they're fixing your hands up, whatever it may be. And you walk out of it and you feel good because you've been pampered for 90 minutes.
Right.
But that's maintenance.
Wow. Yeah.
And we as men do it as well, right?
Yeah.
It could look like gaming for us.
Mm-hmm.
It could look like going out for a round of golf for us.
Right.
It could look like our favorite sports bar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the kind of things we do to kind of, it's coping, it's maintenance, it's getting us through the next day.
Yeah. And I think that we have to, just park there for a second, because I think we've misidentified what self-care is. And maintenance. We haven't really defined those things. And I think that so often, we think, okay, I heard Carey Nieuwhof, a great thought leader. He's always says, your time away will not help you if you don't know how to manage your time on. In other words, if you don't know how to manage how you work and how you operate, if you don't know how to manage, no amount of time off is going to help that. No amount of time off, and especially most of the time we don't really take sabbaticals or take trips or take stuff until a leak, until the leak becomes public.
And then the board says, we got to sit you down.
And the board says, we're going to have you, listen, sir, listen, ma'am, we're going to have you. They pull your coat a little bit. And so
and they call that a soft sabbatical. He's going to go and he's going to go rest a while.
Right, yeah, you need to, get some, really in the old school was get somewhere and sit down. But again, but I think that we have to, one of the things we don't do is learn how to manage how leaders spend their time, how shepherds spend their time while they're working. And instead of building in maintenance, build in self-care.
And that's balance.
Yeah.
Right? Boundaries. That's learning how to decompress.
Yeah.
Right. Where do you put that? That's overall, that's compassion for yourself.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. We're so hard on ourselves, right? It's our self-talk. What you call yourself when nobody's around?
Right.
In your head. When you make a mistake or
you
can't figure it out, or you got to do it yourself project and then gets working out and you spiral out. Right. All of that stuff comes out of, if you don't have balance, you're not grounded, you don't know how to decompress, really tend to stress management, which is
Right.
huge in ministry, huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I hear that all the time. It's like, yeah, but you're talking about maintenance. I'm talking about real work.
Right. and I thought about a few colleagues of mine that, and sometimes coming up in the church and seeing these, these pillars, these heroes, these, ones that have gone before us. We look at them like never never understanding that they needed hobbies, they needed balance, they needed something that wasn't just about ministry all the time. I saw an interview with Trevor Noah just earlier today, and I forgot the guy he's talking about. It was great, Diary of a CEO is what.
The guys out of the UK, I think.
Yeah. And so he was talking about how he was talking about like being famous and success. I mean, he said he doesn't want to sound like somebody that's, want to, oh, poor me, I'm, so popular, blah, blah, blah. But he was talking about how he when you introduce yourself to somebody, especially somebody new that doesn't know, you see, when people don't know you, when you're unknown, you can introduce yourself to somebody and they're getting a chapter, and you're getting a whole new, you're getting a chance to share your story. But when you're famous, they already know they got their own preconceived idea about who you are.
Full narrative. Yes.
Exactly. So the thing that we have to understand is, because of your position, that's not who you are. As a pastor, as a leader, that's not your identity. That's not who you are. There's somebody in there that's really you, away from everybody else. And I think that we don't understand as leaders how to understand. This is what I do, but that's not who I am.
Because
of course it's a divine calling, but
there's an identity with the vocation, right? And we gotta tell people, separate yourself from your career. Like, you got a whole. When I started my work journey, my first job was with Dairy Queen.
Okay.
16 years old, in the mall, a couple of nights a week. It wasn't much, right? But it was a lot for me with my little $70 check, right? Right? $79.
Not like my McDonald's experience, but continue. Yes.
$4 an hour, right? So they had me staple the receipt on the bag. And that bothered me because I couldn't understand, why I gotta do all that. So I get into my granddad picked me up one day from the mall. My granddad, who I talk about, they picked me up from the mall to bring me home. And I got in the truck, and he said, "How's your night?" After I gave him his chocolate malt that he got for free.
We'll get in that truck without that malt.
Without that malt. And I talked about that bag and that receipt on the bag all the way home. Right? Couldn't understand. And my grandfather just let me talk, right? As most men would do. And he said, "You finished?" Yeah. Right? He says, "You work over there, but your life is over here."
There it is.
Like, they want you to stay. He said, if they're not asking you to do anything that's against your morals and ethics, staple the receipt on the bag.
And leave that there.
Right? So that blew my mind at 16, right? So I stopped complaining. I'm like, "Oh, you want me to staple? We'll staple." So, Bishop, so that identity, right? Trevor Noah talked about that thing that comes along with celebrity, that he didn't sign up for celebrity. He just doing his work. When we think about self-care, I talked about balance and grounding oneself, how to deal with your stress, a sense of well-being, right? So we think about the physical piece. So that's 4 elements: with the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual.
Yes.
That's not getting your nails done.
Right.
That ain't going to the barbershop. You know what I'm saying? That ain't walking on the BMW parking lot for another bill.
Right.
So we think about, let's start with the physical first. Sleep. We talk about that a lot, right? Get on a regimen, 7 to 9 hours a night. That's physical, right? Nutrition, exercise. We just talking about just the physical thing, right? Self-care, right? Rest. Those areas, that's your physical piece. Those things are non-negotiable. So when we have self-care, these things become non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
So when I get through eating in the evenings, like I did tonight, I go for my walk. That's non-negotiable. It's raining here in Atlanta. I walk with that umbrella. That's non-negotiable. That's part of what I do to help me decompress.
Right.
And that helps that roast to move. My
right.
God. And so,
Lord knows you need that roast to move now.
I need that roast to move. I do. And here's the emotional piece. So we got the physical, we got rest, right? All those things I just mentioned. Now here's the emotional piece. Journal.
Right.
It could be just keeping great notes in the evenings. I call it a brain dump. Just get out of your head, right?
Yeah.
Setting boundaries is emotional self-care. Let your no be no and your yes be yes.
Right. And no without an explanation.
It's the complete sentence. Is that what we've been told? Correct?
Yes.
Self-compassion, we talked about that being a practice, right? That we need to be a little bit more gentle to ourselves. Right?
What does that look like? Self-compassion. You mentioned it kind of twice. Just kind of mess with that a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
When we talk about self-compassion, we have such high standards of ourselves. So we are critical if we are not progressing along. We're critical if we make mistakes, or we're critical of ourselves when things don't turn out the way, right? Some of us spiral down. That spiraling could be so